Hello and welcome back to the another episode of Daily News Quiz Analysis for IAS Prelims 2025. It is 11th April today, and in this video we are going to solve some important questions which could be very much relevant for your preparation. But before we start our discussion, I would like to give the brief introduction about this initiative so that if you are new to our channel you will get more connected with us. Basically in this video we are going to discuss three types of questions, and these questions would be taken from three different sources. So depending on it, the first set of questions which we are going to discuss here would be taken from the current affairs. What we are going to do? We'll take up the most important articles from the newspapers. We'll try to break them down into the simplest language possible. We'll try to discuss those articles, and finally we'll derive the possible prelims question from that particular article so that it will give the idea which part of the newspaper is important for you, how should you approach or how should you read the news articles, and how can you expect a possible prelims question from those particular articles. This is what we do in the first phase of our discussion in this part. After solving questions with respect to current affairs, we will shift our approach to the second part. Here we will discuss questions from the static portion. Currently we are discussing Indian polity, and in Indian polity we are discussing the Parliament of India. And in Parliament of India we are going to discuss, currently we are discussing Lok Sabha. So from today we are going to discuss the procedure in Lok Sabha. So today we will discuss few important concepts related to that, and we will derive the possible prelims question related to those concepts so that it will give the proper idea how exactly a question can be asked in the exam with respect to those concepts, to prepare you well before the exam. After we solve the questions with respect to the static portion, we will shift our approach to the last part. Here we will discuss questions from the previous year question book. This is one of the most important part, because in here we exactly learn what is the vocabulary used by UPSC over the years, what are the trends they try to follow for framing your papers over the years, and at the same time we'll try to understand what can be the different elimination methods which we can implement in the exam and solve the questions of which we don't have the proper knowledge, and at the same time we'll try to understand how we can implement this information in the upcoming exam. So this is in a nutshell what we are going to do in this video. Now before we start our discussion, I would like to request you guys, please do subscribe the channel, do share it with your friends so that they may also get benefited from this initiative, and please do write in the comments what else should we bring for you guys. Now without any delay, let's have a look at the first question which we had brought today. As here the question is with respect to the RBI's monetary policy with respect to how it is reducing the repo rate. Here three terms which catch our eyes. First, RBI, which you should know about RBI. It is functioning, the monetary policy tools, what are the different monetary policy tools with respect to RBI, and also what this repo rate is and why the RBI often adjusts it with respect to the current, what is the current market situation, why do RBI often, often changes it. So these are few very core static topics which you would have read. I am supposing that, I am believing that that you would have read these core important topics during your static studies when you were studying Indian economy. But here, as the question is with respect to the repo rate, and we saw that it is basically the continuation of the yesterday's class where we discussed about how the monetary policy committee, they decided to reduce the repo rate by 0.25 base points. So here we will try to understand why does the RBI or monetary policy committee, it has gone for the reducing the repo rate. Why do RBI do so? What is the reason for that, and how the present geopolitical situation, what is going on with respect to the geopolitics right now, with respect to, as we are seeing that there is very much uncertainty with respect to the tariffs which are imposed by Donald Trump, and also we are seeing that there are various geopolitical, there are various either proxy wars or there are wars going on in the Middle East. So because of all these things which are happening at the same time, it definitely impacts the global market. So does it impact the Indian market too. So with respect to this, RBI often checks the repo rates, it checks its financial tools, and it changes it with respect to the market conditions. So here, as we know from the yesterday's class also, that RBI has reduced the repo rate by 0.25 base points. So let's try to understand what its impact would be. So first we will understand, about the repo rate. We saw that, we discussed a little bit yesterday also. It is the rate at which the RBI lends to the banks. It is the rate at which the RBI lends to the banks, or we can say at this rate the RBI gives money to the market. RBI liquidates it. So with respect to this, it is the rate at which the RBI lends to the banks. And for what purpose banks will use? They will use for the liquidation purpose. They will give to the further customers, or we can say they will give it to the different companies, and it will in a way introduce money in the market, if we will try to understand it into the simpler terms. So here the RBI does, what this repo rate, I hope you had understood it, what the repo rate is. So with respect to this, if we will see, yesterday also we discussed that when this repo rate is increased, so what does it mean? It means that the banks, they have to pay more. Banks have to pay more interest, we can say more interest to the RBI for taking some money from the RBI. The banks will have to pay more interest. When banks will have to pay more interest, for example, if the repo rate is 6% right now, suppose it will be increased to 8%. That means if the banks have to borrow 100 rupees from the RBI, of this 100 rupees, 8%, 8 rupees they will have to pay extra 8 rupees as the interest, whether it would be annually. So they will have to pay this extra 8 rupees as the interest. So if this interest is increased, what does it signify? It signifies that the banks will not, they will decide not to borrow, it in a way. This is the tool used by RBI to contract the money, to take, take money away from the market. It is in a way that this money will not be lent to others. So we can say in a way to check the inflation. If there is inflation and RBI does not want to add more money into the market, what they will do, they will increase the repo rate. When the repo rate will increase, the banks will not they will not buy money, they will not borrow money from the RBI. So which will lead to definitely this will lead to less money in the market, and it will definitely check the inflation. And what would be the trade-off here? If the inflation would be checked, the trade-off would definitely be it would be here the growth. The growth would be trade-off here, that the RBI will check on inflation and the growth will be impacted, because if there is less money in the market, then it will definitely impact the growth, but at the same time it does reduce the inflation. So this is when the RBI increases the repo rate. So now as we are seeing that in the yesterday's class, we saw that the RBI has reduced this. If the RBI reduces the repo rate, what will it signify? That there is less interest, that the banks have to pay less interest to the RBI. When the banks have to pay less interest to the RBI for the same amount of money, so they will feel free to get more money from the RBI and release it into the market. So definitely it is the goal to boost the growth in the country, in the country, and the trade-off will be, it may lead to the inflation. So I hope with this discussion you had understood this. I hope you had understood the repo rate. You had understood why the RBI manipulates repo rate with respect to the market conditions. As right now we are seeing that the geopolitical conditions, the unnecessary tariff wars from the Donald Trump, and very much inconsistency with those. So definitely there is there is volatility in the market, and because of that the RBI has reduced it to 0.25 base points. So with this, I hope you had understood the question, and you should now be very much ready. You should now be very much feeling confident that you can solve this question easily. So let us have a look at the question. Let's see what does the question say. The question here says, the Reserve Bank of India frequently adjusts the repo rate as a key tool of its monetary policy. 100% correct. Which of the following are the primary reasons for the RBI to reduce the repo rate? First statement, to curb rising inflation. Does RBI reduce repo rate to curb rising inflation? What do you think? Is it the reason for that? RBI will reduce repo rate to curb the inflation. Let's have a look at the second statement. When the repo rate will be reduced, suppose repo rate will be reduced, more money will be given to the market. So definitely it will have negative impact on the inflation, but it will have a great impact on the growth. So first statement, to curb inflation, RBI will not reduce it, but it will increase the repo rate. So first statement is incorrect. First statement is incorrect. So by applying the elimination method here in the options, we can eliminate option A and option C. So we are left with option B and option D. But if you were in the exam, the ideal option to look at for this question to solve it in the minimum time period would have been option 4. But as here we are trying to understand the question, now let's have a look at the second statement. The second statement says that to stimulate economic growth, this is 100% true. To stimulate economic growth, the RBI reduces the repo rate. If it has to curb the inflation, it will increase the repo rate. So second statement is 100% correct with respect to the question. Now the third statement, it says to increase the liquidity in the banking system, 100% correct. The RBI reduces repo rate to increase the liquidity in the banking system because they feel much free to borrow the money from the RBI because they have to pay less interest on that. So third statement is also true. Now the fourth statement, to attract foreign portfolio investment. Even though it is the one of the consequence of reducing the repo rate, but is it the primary reason why RBI does so? No, it is not the primary reason. So the fourth statement is incorrect. Even though it can lead to the attraction of foreign portfolio investments, but it is not the primary reason why RBI reduces it or increases it. So with respect to this question, the correct statement would be statement 2, and correct statements would be statement 2 and statement 3. And from the code given below, the correct code would be option B. With this, I hope you had understood the question here as well as the context of the question. If you have any doubt with respect to this question, please do write in the comments. We will try to clear that. Now with this, let's move to the another slide and see what question we had brought there. Now let's have a look at the second question which we had brought here. Before we'll start discussing this question, I would like to give you the basic idea about who gig workers are, by the simple examples. You maybe anybody from your family, maybe your parents, maybe your brother, maybe your sisters, they are working for some firm, they are working for some company. Either they would be working for the government, they will have a very conventional job. They will have very much job security in it. They will be under various insurance schemes under it. They will have the post retirement plans under which would be secured by the company itself. They will have all kinds of securities with respect to that. But at the same time, you would had ordered, for example, you use Ola. You want to go anywhere, you want any drive, you will go to Ola and choose a drive from there. And at the same time, you want your food to be delivered from the Zomato. If you want your food to be delivered, you will go to Zomato and you will order food for yourself. These people who deliver your food at your place, who carry you in these cars, whether you are using Ola or anything else, these people, they are called the gig workers. They don't have any formal contract between the company. They are not the formal workers of the company. There is no formal contract. They don't have that much job security, especially in India. They don't have the post retirement securities. They are not covered under health insurance schemes, so they are very much vulnerable. And at the same time, what they do, they are not only registered with one company, they are registered with various other companies which provide these opportunities which they work on. So these are gig workers, and they have huge social strains in our country. They have huge social security issues in our country. So with respect to this various state governments, we saw that how Rajasthan government and we saw that how Andhra Pradesh government, Karnataka government, they tried to bring in the bills which would provide for their securities. So with respect to this, the government of India, they are deciding to bring in the bill which will focus on the social security of the gig workers. And under this bill, it has not been yet approved by the cabinet. It is in the parliament still. So under this bill, these people, these gig workers, they will be covered under the Ayushman Bharat. They will be provided this benefit. They will be covered under Ayushman Bharat. They will be given. They will be eligible for the post pension policies. There will be they would be eligible for the post pension schemes, and at the same time they will be registered. They will be registered on eShram portal, and at the same time they will be given the unique ID number which they will use for their lifetime. So the few social securities will be provided to them, because it is very much important to look at their social securities. They are very much vulnerable. unfortunately, if any of them goes through any accident, the company is not responsible for their health, they are not responsible for them, so all the burden is taken by these people themselves. So there is huge vulnerability with respect to them, and the government is thinking good for them, and they had started to bring in this scheme, and it is yet to be approved by the cabinet. So with this regard, there are a few drawbacks with this. What a few drawbacks highlighted by the author. One of that is the author highlighted that we are signatory to the ILO. We are in a way founding. We were the founding fathers of the ILO. But unfortunately, under this ILO, we have the Convention number 102, which talks about the social securities of these people, which provides the minimum standards for the social security. But India has not ratified it. The author here highlights that India should have ratified it and brought it under its domain, but India has not ratified it. And also, the author highlights here that this work would be implemented once these schemes would be passed by the cabinet. It would be implemented by the welfare boards. And if we look at the history of the welfare boards from different states, we are seeing that they had failed in this. So definitely there are few drawbacks also with respect to ILO. We already had a scheme, we are signatory to ILO, but we had not implemented, we had not ratified the convention number 102, and at the same time the implementation of this scheme would be very much hard, because we had seen the track of the welfare boards, how they had dealt with such issues. So this is the whole nutshell why we had brought this question here. I hope you had understood who gig workers are, what are the problems they are associated with, what the government is bringing in for them, and what are the drawbacks of it, how ILO is relevant here, how this convention 102 is relevant, and how welfare boards are relevant. I hope you had understood this all thing in the simplest and nutshell way. Now let's solve the question and answer it. The question says, regarding the International Labour Organization's Social Security Minimum Standards Convention 1952 number 102, 1952 number 102, consider the following statements. First statement: the convention establishes globally agreed minimum standards for social security, providing flexibility to member states in achieving these standards. 100% correct, but India has not ratified it. Second statement: India has ratified the ILO Social Security Minimum Standards Convention 1952. Totally incorrect, India has not ratified it. Third statement: the convention requires social security schemes to be administered exclusively by the government agencies. This is totally extreme statement and incorrect. So with respect to this question, the correct statement would have been statement 1 only, and if there would have been options given, then the correct option, we will assume it would be option A only. So with this, I hope you had understood the question and also got the context of the question. Now with this, let's move to the another slide and see what question we had brought there. Well, here the question is with respect to Rekla race. So the picture of it was in the newspaper, so it becomes very much important for your prelims preparation. So let's see what does the question say. The question says, regarding the Rekla race, traditional support practiced in certain regions of India, consider the following statements. First statement: Rekla race primarily involve bullock cart racing and or traditional support found mainly in parts of Tamil Nadu. 100% correct. It is found in Tamil Nadu. Two bulls will be tied together in one bullock cart, and it would be there would be a bullock cart race among different people doing this. So first statement is true. Second statement: the Supreme Court of India has consistently upheld the practice of a Rekla race without any restrictions, citing cultural significance. This becomes in a way very much extreme statement, because we know that the animals are involved in this. So definitely there would have been certain restrictions from the Supreme Court under this. So second statement, we will assume it is incorrect. Third statement: animal welfare organizations have raised concerns regarding the treatment of animals during Rekla race, citing instances of cruelty. 100% correct. Fourth statement: Rekla race are officially recognized by the government of India as national supporting event. No, it is incorrect. So with respect to this question, the correct statement would have been statement 1 and statement 3 only. And from the code given below, the correct code is option A. With this, I hope you had understood the question here. Now let's move to the another slide and see what question we had brought there. Well, here the question is with respect to the varieties of democracy. Institute, it publishes an annual report assessing the state of democracy worldwide. In this context of the VDM report, consider the following statements. First, about VDM reports, it has given it is report on issued it is report on the democracy. It has issued it is democracy report, and it has highlighted that the liberal democracies, which are very much fine with the present world, should have been very much fine with the present world, but unfortunately there is decline with respect to the liberal democracies. And with respect to the electoral autocracy, as it has highlighted this report, it has highlighted that in India there is the increase of the electoral autocracy, and which was denied by the government in a way that this agency is trying to defame India. So according to this data, the electoral autocracy is on increase. So please do remember that this data may be useful for you for your mains writing exam, and or even a direct question about the varieties of democracy VDM report can be asked in the prelims exam. So with this, let's have a look at the statements here. The first statement: VDM report annually evaluates electoral democracy, focusing solely on the fairness and freedom of the elections. No, it does not only it definitely evaluates the electoral democracy, but also it looks at the other parameters too. So first statement is incorrect. Second statement, it says VDM report uses a multi-dimensional approach considering various aspects of democracy, including liberal, egalitarian, participatory dimensions. 100% true. Third statement, the VDM report is produced by the government agency ensuring official endorsement of its findings. No, it is an independent. It is produced by the independent agency, not the government agency. So third statement is incorrect. Fourth statement, VDM report does not consider civil society participation as an important factor in the democratic assessment. No, this is totally incorrect and very much opposite of its core functioning. So fourth statement is also incorrect. So with respect to this question, the correct statement would have been statement 2 only, and let us suppose the option would have been option B. So with this, I hope you had understood the question here. Now let's move to the another slide and see what question we had brought there. Well, here the question is with respect to the PM portion scheme. Why we had brought this question here? Because the government has decided to increase the budget with respect to PM portion, because inflation has came in, so they will adjust the inflation, how much they were giving earlier. They will adjust inflation with that and increase the budget with respect to PM portion scheme. So with this, let's solve the question here. The question says, regarding the PM portion scheme, consider the following statements. First statement, the PM portion scheme aims to provide hot cooked meals to children only in the government aided primary schools. No, it includes government schools, government aided primary schools, and others also. So first statement is incorrect. Not private schools, we know that. Second statement, the scheme is a centrally sponsored scheme with cost shared between the center and the state. Of course, this is true. Third statement, the PM portion scheme only focuses on providing nutritional support and does not include any social audit mechanism. Definitely there is social audit mechanism, so this statement is incorrect. Fourth statement, the scheme mandates the provisions of meals for all children up to age of 14 years, regardless of their socio-economic background. 100% correct. So with respect to this question, the correct statements are statement 2 and statement 4 only. 2 and 4 only. Let's suppose it was the option C. So the correct option would have been option C. So with this, let's move. With this, we had completed our discussion with respect to the questions from the current affairs. Now let's move to the another part where we will discuss questions from the static portion. As you know, currently we are discussing Indian polity, and in Indian polity we are discussing the Parliament of India. And in the Parliament of India, we are about to discuss the procedure in the Lok Sabha. So first, with respect to the procedure in the Lok Sabha, we should know that the time of sitting. With respect to the procedure in the Lok Sabha, first we should know what is the time of sitting in the House. So the time allotted for this is when in session Lok Sabha holds its sitting usually from the 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. This is the time usually allotted for the sitting in for when it is in session. This is the time allotted for the sitting from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. So please do remember that. So after this, when this sitting is there, the first thing which we need to know is about the question hour. So let us see what the question hour is. So let's try to understand this through this question. The question says, regarding the question hour in the Lok Sabha, consider the following statements. First statement, the question hour is held immediately after the 0 hour. This is totally incorrect. The question, 0 hour is held immediately after the question hour. So first statement becomes incorrect. Second statement, all questions asked during the question hour must be addressed by the Prime Minister. This is also incorrect. They are to be addressed by the ministers of certain departments whom they are going to ask the questions. It is not the Prime Minister has to answer every question. So second statement is incorrect. Third statement, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha has the final authority to decide whether a question is admissible. 100% correct. Fourth statement, question can be asked to private members of the House if they hold a specific portfolio. 100% correct. So with respect to this question, the correct statements are statement 3 and statement 4 only. And from the code given below, the correct code would be option B. With this, I hope you had understood this topic as well. Now let's move to the last slide where we will discuss a question from the previous year question book and see what question was asked in the Indian geography. Here the question says, very simple question, and I hope if such questions were asked during our time, it would have been much easier for us to crack the prelims. Let's have a look at the question here. The question says, this question was asked basically in 1996. So do remember the date. As I always tell about geography, there is least margin for the examiners, so they often may repeat the questions. So do remember that. So that's why it is important for you how much questions are available to you. Try to hold those questions, try to discuss them, try to understand them, and get prepared well before the exam. So let us see the question here. Question says, high temperature and low pressure over the Indian subcontinent during the summer season draws air from the Indian Ocean in the inblowing of south east monsoon, southwest monsoon. Definitely southwest monsoon would be the correct answer to this question. So with this, we had completed our today's discussion. I hope you would have liked the video. I hope you would share it with your friends, and I definitely hope you would subscribe to the channel. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.